Talking F1 with Steve, Neil and the Gov.
Good evening. Welcome to Talking F1, the weekly little pit stop with F1 news, goings-on and bits and pieces. I am Steve. That is Neil. As always, how are you, Neil?
Yeah, not too shabby.
Good. Have you had a good week?
Yeah, not too bad. What about you?
Yeah, okay. I've had better. I've had worse. Yeah, there we go. Well, this is the final one before 2023 kicks off in full. Pre-season testing is done. That is finito. If you are watching along with us tonight, just remember we are streaming on the Talking F1 YouTube channel as well. So if you're not watching through the channel, head over there, subscribe. Details will be in the chat. Good evening or welcome in, Mike Baker. Nearly lights out. Yeah, that Mercedes looks like it could mean business. We shall certainly see. They seem a bit downcast. Evie J, welcome in. Hello, good evening. Yeah, Mercedes seem a little bit downcast after that preseason testing. Do you think they're sandbagging a bit, or do you think they are genuinely struggling?
I have heard that they're supposed to be doing a little bit of sandbagging, but there's been a lot of, shall we say, negative comments and people that look a little bit downbeat, and the team have admitted not being quite where they wanted to be. And I have also heard that they've got a Red Bull style side pod design waiting in the wings.
Right?
Yeah.
Ooh, that could be interesting if they turn up in Bahrain with an entirely different looking car and blow the competition away. There we go. We shall certainly see, because it was an intriguing preseason test. Details for Talking F1 YouTube channel are in the chat, by the way. So obviously head on over there, give us a subscribe. It would mean a hell of a lot. Yes, there were. I think it was a slightly toned down preseason test. There were only 3 days of running, and well, there wasn't really anything major in terms of there was no accidents, which is always good. There was the odd spin. There were a couple of breakdowns, which, as always, is to be expected. Aston Martin had a bit of a breakdown. Alfa Romeo, Mercedes as well. They had a hydraulic issue on George Russell's car. So I think it was some mixed results. I think up and down the grid. Is there anyone that really sort of stood out to you that could struggle in the early part of the season?
I think we both know who that is.
Does it look a bit similar to that one?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the team came out and said they haven't hit their targets. It's disappointing. It almost feels like we now know why the guy left. He went to Sauber, and probably he couldn't see McLaren going anywhere. So that's the way it sort of feels and looks at this moment in time.
It's
and
a
poor
shame.
Orlando,
is
stuck with another dog of a car.
Was it Daniel Ricciardo? Was it the car? But
well, it was always the car, but Lando still got more.
Lando got more out of it. It's a shame, because I really want to see this fight between Piastri and Norris. And if they're left with another dog of a car sort of fighting at the tail end of the midfield again, it's going to be a hell of a shame, because they were having brake issues they're having, and sort of the wheel brow issues as well. And
they're trying to make everything lighter so the cars can be under the weight limits, and that bit fatigued over time.
Yeah, I feel for Lando, because he's been with the team now for a long time, and he would have thought that by now they'd have been closer to fighting for wins.
Did he sign the 2-year contract to keep him there?
I think he did. I think he's committed his sort of immediate future to the team.
Because I know someone mentioned, was that potentially a bad idea? Should he have seen it towards the end of this season, see what seats are available? But you know what contracts are like these days anyway. They just get bought out of them as if they don't even exist.
Yeah, they don't mean a thing now, do they? They bought Ricciardo out of his own contract.
It was mentioned that Bottas, was it 10 million to buy out of his?
Absolutely ridiculous. But Lando, what have they got to do to keep him? Because if they have another year, of a terrible car, obviously it's only pre-season testing, so they could turn up and give it a few races. Aston Martin started really slowly last year, and now look at them. But
yeah, well, that's a thing.
Teams are going to.
They're supposed to be potentially bringing a B spec type car to whatchamacallit. Is it Baku that they're mentioning?
Yeah. That's a hell of a long way to wait, though.
Yeah. Well, it is. Some say it's just 4 races in, but your season's pretty much done by that point. If
you're up and running. If you've fallen too many points behind, then you're not going to make it up, are you? Unless something drastic happens.
No, you think last season they started slowly when Haas and Alfa Romeo started strong and got good points.
I remember after the first couple of races of the season, Williams were actually ahead of McLaren in the championship. I did feel a little bit smug at that. I'm not going to lie.
Another thing that was mentioned is the fact that if McLaren are a slightly worse team, that puts a little less pressure on Piastri. But what was the junior Formula, the team he came from there? Is it Prema?
Yeah, it was Prema.
They said that his Piastri is a better prospect than even Leclerc.
Really?
That came from them. One. So we'll see how he does. It'd be good if he is that good. He should definitely give Lando a run. But
yeah,
we'll find out.
It's certainly going to be an interesting, certainly opening portion to the season. Obviously, it looks like there were some teams that evidently struggled, like McLaren. Some teams played their cards very close to their chest, didn't give too much away. Alpine sort of stick out with me on that one. They never really set the timing beams alike, but...
No, that's a strange one for me, because they didn't look very good at all, as far as I was concerned. But within the team, they're as chuffed as anything.
Yeah. Well, it's a Renault engine.
Feel like everything... Survived. Yeah, apparently they had their engine on a dyno, and they really stress test it. So they felt it's fairly bulletproof, and we'll see when it comes to the season, because Alonso last season found out it wasn't very bulletproof. Amazing. No, so they're fairly adamant that it's in a good position, and they just ran the tests they needed to. Yeah,
there's a lot of positive chat. There's coming out of teams like Alpine and like Williams and Alfa Romeo. None of them really, well, Bottas and Zhou did set some quick times, but they just sort of got on with their running, got on with their own thing, and they were optimistic. Albon was saying some good things about the Williams, and they've sort of eradicated the main issues, the instability problems they had last year, which is brilliant. So that could drag them closer. Haas again looked pretty solid. Again, sort of nothing spectacular, but they just got on what they needed to do, and they looked relatively competitive.
Yeah, I must admit I didn't see too much of Haas, but they're supposed to, as you mentioned, they've had a solid pre-season. We'll see where they are. They're supposed to be in that midfield, having a good battle for points. So we'll find out. Same with Alfa Romeo.
I think it's going to be a close midfield this year. McLaren are probably going to be in it. Alpine, maybe. Alfa Romeo, Williams, Haas, AlphaTauri as well. They look pretty solid to be a midfield team.
Yeah, I've sort of heard that they're potentially one down the lower end with McLaren. I have heard that Williams might not be the slowest team anymore. But on the other hand, I have heard that they've sorted out their balance issues, but there's not enough on the car to potentially drag them really into the midfield. So we'll have to wait and see how their balance really shapes their season.
Yeah, certainly in the opening part of the season, I think Williams, the likes of Williams, AlphaTauri are going to be, sort of 9th, 10th quickest teams. It's going to be between those two, really. And obviously it's going to come down to who brings upgrades quicker and how effective they are. Mike, first few races of the year, it's like a game of chess. Yep, no one wants to show their hand too early. But you also, I don't know, I sort of sit on the fence with that, because surely you want to come out of the blocks on full pelt, just to show like this is that we were playing it down in testing. This is how quick we really are. Mercedes could set up and blow everyone away. So could Ferrari. I doubt it. You never know. I remain hopeful.
Yeah, at this moment, Red Bull are supposed to be quite comfortable.
I was going to say, obviously, you had one end of the scale, the team that disappointed was McLaren. At the other end of the scale, the team that had probably the best preseason testing a team could have was definitely Red Bull. I mean, Aston Martin, but Red Bull were.
To be fair, yeah,
insane.
like you say, that everything did seem to just go amazingly. Bar Perez seemed to struggle. The balance of that car still seems to be the same as it was last season, and Max can get the handle on it, and Perez still struggling a little. So
yeah, Max.
Let's
Verstappen
see
is
how it
definitely
goes
the
for
guy to
him.
beat.
yeah, it pretty much this time it seems that the pundits are saying he's nailed on for
Yeah,
the one to try and beat.
It's hard to argue with it, really. You know, he seems just in a league of his own with that car. The Red Bull have built, obviously, it's an evolution of last year's, but Red Bull have built an astonishing car. It was quick. It looked very handleable. It was reliable. You know, that car is a triple threat by the looks of it. And although Ferrari didn't have any sort of serious issues with reliability, they just couldn't really keep up to them either on quali pace or the long run pace. Last year, it was the quali pace where Ferrari were insanely fast. The amount of pole positions Charles Leclerc got, but in the long run pace, they struggled.
That's something really with them. They seem not to be quite as close as Red Bull this time around over the single lap pace, and they're still weak on the long runs. So, with people saying that they're still second, we'll see. If they are, I'm not sure how close it's going to be this time around.
It's not going to be as close. I can see Ferrari still being second quickest. I think they will still be right up there. But the battle for third is going to be very intriguing because Mercedes, whatever's going on with their car, but Aston Martin, out of nowhere, it was a surprise when Fernando Alonso announced his move to the team for this year. And for the first time, possibly in his entire career, Fernando Alonso might have made a good career choice with moving teams at the right time. Because every time he's moved team, mostly, it's gone downhill. But he could have actually done something very, very good here.
Does that mean L Plan is going to actually work this time around?
L Plan is going to actually work. Because Aston he was looking fantastic. Obviously, they missed Lance Stroll because of a wrist injury. And they had
they're questioning how long he's going to be out for. And it looks like Djokovic is going to potentially be in for the race weekend.
We'll get a Brazilian on the grid for the first time since, I want to say Felipe Massa, 2017. But Djokovic, to be fair to him, Djokovic obviously broke down nice and early on, but he then got some solid running in over the course of his time in the car. And Fernando was just typically Fernando and being incredible. So can you imagine a Lewis Hamilton versus Fernando Alonso fight? I want to see that again. I really do.
That's something I've heard several times, people saying they want to see that battle.
Oh, yeah, you can keep your Verstappen and Leclerc battle. I want Alonso Hamilton. That'd be great. Because remember when was it Ocon won in Hungary and Alonso was defending from Hamilton? And just, it was so good. Two veterans of the sport, two insane drivers. So if Aston have actually played a blinder here and they have got a car that can compete for podiums, at least, well, hopefully podiums, if not regular solid points, that battle is going to be tasty. Just the thought of it, the prospect of it. I've only got a few more days to wait as well. Oh, it's going to be so good.
It'd be good. Yeah, as much as I have my thoughts on certain things throughout Alonso's career, he has come back and shown us all that he's still got it. And you think at the age he is, it's amazing to see. And now he has potentially got a reasonable car. You want to see him rack up some good points.
When was the last time Fernando had a car that was actually decent at running at that end of the grid? It's got to be probably way back in his sort of maybe the late McLaren time when the car was slightly better, but probably way back in Ferrari, sort of 2013. Because 2014.
Yeah, obviously, originally he had the old Renault that ran away with it, and then he had a good season at McLaren where he had the tussle with Lewis.
That was
And as
great.
you say, he had some. They were a bit sparse, but he did have a couple of good seasons at Ferrari.
It was just tricky at Ferrari because that's when Vettel and Red Bull were hitting their peak, But this could be incredible. But Mike Baker, a couple of comments I missed there. Sorry, Mike. When the upgrades hit, we'll know who's capable of what. Absolutely. That's going to be a big part, certainly, of the early days of the season, where teams potentially Haas and Williams could drop off because they can't introduce the upgrades as quick as teams around them, like McLaren maybe.
I just half wonder that how can McLaren bring in a B-spec car within the cost cap?
Yeah, that's extreme. That's two entirely new cars, while still coming out of the cost cap and still have enough to upgrade it and to update it when needed.
Because you can half imagine that they'll bring out a B-spec and it'll still be flawed.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been invaded. It's a cat.
I was going to say, as the cat walked in,
Just the door opened by itself.
I had the tortoise trying to drag the mouse off the table there.
She waits outside, and every time I'm either on a Zoom call with my dad or I start doing this, she'll barge in and just. Luckily, she's not brushing herself against the webcam yet, but give it time. Hi. But yeah, the upgrade race is going to be intriguing this year. But with, to be fair to teams like Williams, now they've got the Gulf partnership as well. They actually can come in with the cost cap, whereas before they were struggling to hit it. So Williams could potentially introduce more updates at quicker times. Haas obviously got their money from MoneyGram with their teeny tiny little pit wall as well. Have you seen that? A 3-man pit
Yeah,
wall.
I can't remember. Is it? It's just, they did mention how much they were saving per season.
$250,000.
That was it. And that can be better spent on other things, they reckon. So
I'll go towards car development and that sort of thing. Chilled drinks in the fridge and that sort of thing, which would be great. So, to be fair, I think Haas could be, and they've got 2 solid drivers this year as well, so it could be a decent year for them. But it's going to be an interesting season. Obviously, we've only got a few more days to go. Mike, if other drivers want to beat Max, they need to be more aggressive. Yeah, I think Charles last year was a little guilty of being a bit too passive, maybe. Checo's not going to fight him, obviously, for obvious reasons, but I think the most aggressive.
I agree with him and others. That's the case, but when it's with him and Lewis, I think they need to back off a little bit because neither is really willing for the other one to still continue.
No, because
when you go into it,
we saw them genuinely racing each other once, I think, last season, and they made contact, which was in Brazil.
Yeah.
It's the one time they've had to race each other all season, and they still managed to hit each other. It's just they're like magnets. So, yeah, aggressive to a certain degree, I think. But seeing as we have only a few days left of the season, obviously good news. We've done it now for, I think, the past 2 years. I think this is our 3rd year of doing the Talking F1 Fantasy League. I know details will be in the chat. Neil, you know more about what's going on with this than me. But for the 3rd season, we're doing an F1 Fantasy League, so you can you're more than welcome to join it and create teams. You've got 100 million in the bank to pick 5 drivers and 2 teams. So, Neil,
have they changed it from last year? Was it?
Yeah, it was.
There was only one team last time. Yeah.
So you've got 5 drivers, 2 teams. So is it the Talking? What have we renamed it? Let's have a look.
Is it the Talking Town F1 podcast? I think I've called it.
No, it's the one. So Neil's got more details than I have because he's the one who made it. Details, hopefully, if Martin is around, they'll be in the chat soon. So you can head on over and join it. You can go, it's Formula1.com. You can get onto the F1 Fantasy, or you can download the official F1 app. There you go. It's in the chat right now. Absolutely sign up for that because it's going to be awesome. So I've made my team. You've made your team. You go first because let's see if we've got the same people because we're both very, very pleased with our teams here.
Well, I don't think you could choose anyone else other than Max. I pretty much punched in Red Bull as one of the teams and Max as one of the drivers. And then I gave him the ×2 after doing so. So, Did you do the same?
I didn't. No, I've got Max with ×2. but I went for Ferrari as one of my teams. So I thought I'm running out of money, so I went for Ferrari. My two teams, I've got Ferrari and Aston. Because
I've got Aston as my other team.
Yeah, I think that's so many people are going to pick that, and I've got Max with the ×2, Charles Leclerc as well. So I've got both of the sort of the big guns from last season.
I told Martin you'd probably go for Charles.
Of course, I have to. He's my boy. I've got Max. I've got Charles. Fernando. Apparently, Fernando is the most picked driver so far in the new fantasy season. I suppose.
Yep, he was my second pick.
Yeah.
So I've got
It's
both
gotta be
Fernando and Verstappen, and I've got Red Bull and Aston.
That's a team and a half. I then had to go for a couple of sort of, the sort of midfield almost drivers. So I've got Albon, obviously, and Bottas, because Bottas was solid. So it was a toss-up between Hulkenberg and Bottas, but I'm a little unsure about Hulkenberg still.
After those 4 big picks for me, even though Alonso actually isn't that highly rated on the money side of things, and neither are Aston, so they actually come in reasonably cheap. But I still scrolled down the list and thought, right, who looks like they've had a good pre-season and who will be a little bit of a potential good pick. I felt towards the end of the season, Zhou outperformed Bottas. So as he would also save me some money, I chose him over Bottas.
Yeah, good shout.
I also thought Haas might do reasonably again. So at the start, so I went for K-Mag.
Okay. Yeah, so some solid teams.
And then I also found out that, I've underspent a little bit, and I got George Russell.
Hey, there we go. So to be fair, you've got a stronger team than I have. I might have to quickly look at mine. I've got a couple of days, I think, to edit it. But yeah, so Max, Charles, Ferrari, Aston, Fernando, who is the most picked, unsurprisingly, this year. Apparently, he's top of the pile. Albon and Bottas to sort of even it out a little bit. So I'm quietly confident with this because last year I think I had Ricciardo and Vettel at the start of the season, and Vettel missed the start of the season anyway because COVID. And Ricciardo was terrible. So I got off to a very slow start, and I think that hurt me.
Yeah, I think I had McLaren. I think, no, because it was only one team, wasn't it? So I had Red Bull, I think, as my team. But yeah, I had Lando as part of it, and obviously they weren't very good last season. So I imagine he didn't score too many for me. No, I had to put my team out the way this time because I just don't believe they're going to be anywhere near worthy of this pick.
I wanted to go Williams. I really did, but I can't. I'll go for Albon because he'll get the most out of that car. But I get the feeling that Logan Sargent will be not dragging it back, but he won't obviously be up to speed straight away. So
he just needs to not do a Latifi.
Not do Latifi, not hit walls. And did Gov name his team Latifi in the wall as well?
Did
he? I think he did. It's like he's gone. Come on, let him be in peace now.
The GOAT.
The GOAT, the old famous. But there we go. But yeah, so link is in the chat for the Fantasy League. So everyone, please get involved with that because it's going to be awesome. We had loads of teams last year. Hopefully we can get even more this year. And it was brilliant seeing all the different teams and who's gone for what and that sort of thing. So it was really close as well. I think you just finished ahead of me from what I remember.
I haven't actually checked, so I have no idea.
I wonder if you can still check. But,
as far as, do you think George will outscore Lewis again this season?
I think he will.
Or do you reckon it was a bit of a one-off?
No, I think he will. I've got a lot of faith in George. I think he's had a year to bed in now, and he's had a solid, if unspectacular, pre-season test. He had, I think, obviously the reliability issue, but we'll see. I'm confident he'll finish ahead of him again. I think he'll get a win or two. How about you?
I'm not sure about a win or two. We'll have to see how close they are in contention for fighting up the top of the grid. But
yeah, which was
obviously, as I've got him in my team, I would love him to pip Lewis again for that. But I'm not sure. I do believe on the side of Lewis trying to do more to help the setup and all that sort of thing, and missed out more than he should have done at the start. whether
Oh, yeah.
the season that shall not be named played a part in him mentally as well.
Yeah,
But
very true.
other than that, yeah, we'll have to wait on that one.
Yeah, we'll see. We are coming to the end of our little pit stop here. Just a couple of comments coming in. Mike, is that a Red Bull 100 million? You might go over the cost cap. Yeah, it's just blame it on travel expenses. You'll be okay. Metal Jace Magnussen really good in the 22 F1 league. He was last year, but yeah, sort of the slower end to the season for Haas. That was the pole position in Brazil, but
It's been mentioned that potentially Hulkenberg could outscore him. Maybe not in general outperform him, because K-Mag's got some good pace to him, but he can do these interesting decisions at starts of races, and it can end his race quite quickly.
I get the feeling with Haas that it's going to be close. I think Hulkenberg is just going to edge it, because although Magnussen may be the faster of the two, Hulkenberg has got a better sort of strategy brain, and Hulkenberg is better at the consistency of Hulkenberg is better. We've seen over the course of his career, and he's less hot-headed and less partial to the old silly move like Magnussen is. Magnussen will absolutely send it. Hulkenberg will bide his time. That has cost him in the past, but he still brought home big points. So I think Haas is going to be really intriguing. Haas and McLaren, I think this year are going to be two very, very good ones to watch.
I know we touched on it before. I almost feel like we touched it on before Sky Sports did, but the whole thing with AlphaTauri and Tsunoda and his situation, how it sits with, does he outperform or does he at least match De Vries? And
that's going to be interesting as well, isn't it?
We'll have to see, because it's almost a little bit of a lose-lose. If he's not up to De Vries, then not being as good as a driver that Mercedes deemed not quite good enough.
Not good enough for their own camp. But outperform him, and everyone will say, "Oh yeah, but it's just a rookie."
Yeah,
well done. You beat a guy who was in his first season.
So he almost finds himself in a little bit of an interesting situation.
He does.
Let's hope. It ends up all right for him.
It's going to be a tasty season. So many interesting team battles to keep an eye on.
He's supposed to be having
too far ahead.
A good pre-season. He's supposed to be training hard and he's focused.
Fingers crossed. And also, hopefully, he's less sort of erratic now. He was obviously very much so the first season, less so last year, but the car was awful. Hopefully, he's toned it down a bit more this year. He's in his third season, which is crazy already. Yeah. I think he'll be all right. It's just going to be very, very close. But what have we got? Another one. Matthew Rattle. Do you think Mercedes are hiding any more performance? We spoke about it a bit earlier. I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, you mentioned, Neil, about the potential Red Bull-esque side pods. So I think they'll be.
You always wonder if that's hearsay or.
Yeah, until you actually get there.
I think they'll be a bit like they were last season, where they'll stick with this. They'll see it through, even if it doesn't make it to, 24.
Yeah,
but
it's There's, I think, I can't remember. But I mean, I was excited for last season because it was the new era. But this season, I think I'm more so because there's a lot of interesting stories up and down the grid. Hulkenberg is back. You've got an improved midfield. McLaren potentially struggling again. Other teams improving. Oscar Piastri, these teammate relationships. Alonso and an Aston. Are Mercedes going to be quick? Are Red Bull going to be insanely fast again? They are. But, just how far ahead are Red Bull going to be? Can Ferrari get strategies right this year? There's a whole lot to chew on and digest here. It's going to be I can't wait for Sunday. I'll get some beers in, put my feet up. That'd be brilliant. So,
going to be good.
Oh yeah, but I think that brings us to the end of our little pit stop, our little sojourn through Parc Fermé. So we shall be back next Wednesday. Thank you everyone for joining us and for getting involved with the comments. as we said earlier, further back in the chat is the link to the YouTube channel. Please head over there and subscribe if you're not already. And also our Fantasy Formula One League. The link is in the chat there as well. Absolutely get involved with that because we're trying to get more teams than what we did have last year. So it's going to be incredible. But when we reconvene in a week's time, we will have had the first race and Charles Leclerc will be leading the championship. Please. So we shall, we'll see. I'm excited for it. Are you looking forward to it, Neil?
Definitely.
Yeah. Let's get involved. Let's do it. Formula One is back.
Been waiting long enough.
Absolutely. But as always, I have been Steve. He has been Neil. Thank you for joining us. We shall see you next week and enjoy the race this weekend. Cheers.